Alright. Hey everybody. Happy 4th of July to my American viewers and to everybody else. Happy 4th of July as well, I guess. I hope it's a good day. And that being said, let's start our next game for this Climbing the Rating Ladder series. Last game, I won a pretty nice game in like a Queen's Gambit Slav type position by winning a pawn and then kind of snowballing to another pawn and another pawn. So sometimes it goes that way. It was a pretty smooth game. Let's see what we get this game. Alright, Jan Ray plays d4. So I'm going to go... Actually, I want to play something a little bit different than the Slav. I'm going to play b6 just to mix it up a little bit for you guys. Just in case you want to see some other black openings aside from the Slav. Yeah, so now I'm going to play here as intended. And with b3, I'm just basically, or b6, I'm basically just winging it and playing chess. So, you know, I don't really know theory, and that's kind of the whole point of this, is to just get a chess game. So white is probably going to be slightly better because of their superior central control, but that's something you can definitely work around. So I'm going to play d6 because it's a nice flexible move. At some point I'll play e5 possibly, or c5. And this controls e4, e5 and c5, so that, you know, he can't play e5 if I hop my knight out to f6. Okay, so reasonable move by him. He plays f3, which weakens his king side, but it controls g4 and, more importantly, e4. So I'm going to bring my knight out, develop. And so in this game, I'm basically going to try to win the game by, you know, admitting to white, yeah, you probably have a slightly better position because of your massive center, but you have to beat me without knowing anything about the game, basically. Like, we're not going to play 20 moves of theory, we're just going to play some chess. Alright, so they bring their bishop out. Good move. And I think this knight on BA just wants to come here because it's doubtful that he wants to block my fiend kettle bishop on b7. So I think that's a logical move there. I'm just trying to play flexible, good moves and feel out the position before I really decide what I want to do. So as long as there's no threat, I'm just going to keep trying to improve my position. If they have a threat, I'll address it. Yeah, so they're being aggressive, which makes sense. They play b4, getting space. So my inclination is to play a5. And that's probably a good move. Yeah, I'm gonna play a5. If I play a5, challenging the pawn, then they can't really defend it with a3 because their rook on a1 is undefended. So I can play a takes b4, and they can't recapture. So it'd be a takes b4, rook takes a1. So in this case, I think they either have to push to b5 or they have to take on a5. In both cases, they're probably good for me. So this is probably an overextension on their part. So they're getting a little bit greedy with space because they see I'm being passive. But that's the point of these openings as black, is you're trying to get them to overextend. He's not seeing how I can attack him, and he's not quite ready to defend it. He's understanding that. Now, he can't play a3. He can play b5, but that's actually not as good for him as he may think. Yeah, so he goes there, but I think I might just play this and gain some space. and stop him from playing a4. If he played a4, then he'd have a lot of space. But now that pawn right there, see that I said that's not that good for him because the pawn is disjointed. So in the future, it's well defended, but it could possibly be a weakness, or he might have to trade it. So it brings his other knight out, and he's getting ready to castle. So now at this point, I should probably play. Let's see. Yeah, I think I'll try to actually trade that pawn and get rid of it because it's such a space gainer for him. So that's like the nice thing about playing a4 is he can't reinforce that pawn by playing a4 himself. Jan, right? It's probably a girl, so but I'll say they because we never know. So I'm actually kind of liking my position. White may be slightly better here, but I'm gaining, some progress. And that's the thing about chess. It doesn't matter who's slightly better if you're comfortable with the position, if there's a lot of play, because, the chess games are 40, 50, 60 plus moves long, and, it doesn't matter that it's move 9 and they're a quarter pawn better. So they castle, getting their king safety and connecting their rook and their queen. Hi, Alex. Or no, who's that? Hi, Aurora. Hi. You gonna help me play some chess? All right, let's see what we got here. So I think I'll probably play this move, getting my bishop out and challenging their center. And that's why it was important for me to play c6, because if I played c6 earlier, they could play d5 and I wouldn't be able to take because I wouldn't have a pawn on c6 that could take there. So yeah, so then they may play d5 now, but then they have a locked center and I'm not too scared of that. So I can just back my bishop up here, and I think I've gained some progress because now my knight c can swing into c5, pressuring his bishop. My rook can at some point in the future go over to c8 and pressure his knight and x-ray the pawn on c2 behind it. So how do you feel about those moves, Roy? You're so heavy. You're a chunky monkey. Ugh. So he pins my bishop, which is logical, but my knight is defended like 3 times, so I don't see any big threat with that. So I'm actually just going to bring my bishop out and get ready to castle. I'm actually liking my position. White has space in the center, but I have space in the center as well. And I'm seeing they're winning a pawn there. That pawn that I was just bragging about, I'm just seeing they're actually attacking that pawn. Shoot, I didn't see that, and they're confused about my move. They're wondering why I allowed them to play that. It's because I didn't see it, so that's why. Jesus. Alright, so I blundered a pawn, that's cool. But I probably have some compensation, so let me castle out of that. So now my knight's pinned. My knight is unpinned. Dang it, I gotta be careful, man. Like, that's the easy to see move. I could just, you're supposed to look at where the piece is pressuring to see what's going on in the position, so that's kind of a bummer. I blunder pawns, evidently. I sometimes have brain fog and I forget stuff. But, if you got a disability or a neurodivergence or depression or whatever, you still have to play to the best of your ability. No one's going to say, oh, it's okay. We know you had that issue, we'll give you the move back. You still have to play the best move. So, let me just play here. If he takes my knight with his bishop, then I think I have good compensation in the form of simply me having 2 bishops, and his pawn on a2 is passed, but to me it's not that dangerous because I have like 2 bishops who can watch over it. I have a queen and a rook and another rook who can watch over it. So if he takes my knight, I consider the position equal. And then, honestly, if he doesn't take my knight, the position might possibly be equal, too, because then I can take his white squared bishop. If he doesn't move his white squared bishop. And if he doesn't move his white squared bishop, my knight's there. So it's like, I'm down a pawn, but I think that knight is so strong that that could just be compensation enough. I hope. Yeah, I was wondering what to do about it, because I am attacking his bishop. I'm threatening to play knight takes a4, knight takes a4, rook takes a4. So it gets out of the way, which makes sense. I'm going to play kind of a cheeky move. I'm going to get my queen here, connecting rooks, and now I'm kind of x-raying his knight on C. If you guys hear any big loud bangs, it's obviously celebrating Independence Day in America. So I'm pressuring his knight on C3 and his pawn behind it on C2. So there's no tactics at this moment, but he has to look out for it. All right, so he goes there. I think I'm just going to play rook a7 and prepare to double rooks and add pressure to that pawn. The pawn is well defended by pieces, but his c2 pawn is kind of weak long term, and the a4 pawn, in my opinion, is weak long term. Like, that may not be evident to you guys, but because they're, it's now connected by, or it's protected by a knight on c3, a bishop on b5, and a rook on a1. So it seems like it's well protected, which it is, but it's not permanently well protected because it's not protected by a pawn. So it's always potentially vulnerable, and he always has to, right? So it's like he has, this knight, and he has this sniper, and he has this cannon, but they have to watch out for this adorable little foot soldier who's just eking his way along the way, and he, they have to watch out for him for like another 5 miles before he becomes a queen. So before he transitions into a queen. All right, so my next, and I think they're understanding that even when they're up a pawn, and I didn't intend this, by the way. Okay, I got really lucky that my position somehow is okay. I never meant to blunder that pawn. It's fully possible it's like related to theory. I don't think it's theory, but it's probably like theory adjacent, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's some positions that are like this but have not been quite reached or something, and they're slightly better. So I don't think my position is very bad. So with that move, they go, and they're probably aiming for knight d3 or knight b3, challenging my knight, but I don't have to take the knight. Because if I take the knight either way, that's repairing their structure. It's connecting that that pawn on the c file is so backward it almost looks isolated. It'd be bringing it either closer to the center, which would be good for them, or it'd be bringing it away from the center, which is typically not good. But in this case, it would be good because it'd be connecting it on b3 to the pawn on a4. So they go there. They'll connect their rooks in the future when their knight moves. Their queen is just kind of chilling, protecting their knight a little bit. So that's a feature. So now their knight's protected. Okay. And I have a knight and 2 rooks on that pawn. Actually, a move I really, well, no, I was gonna say a move I liked here is rook a5 to just kind of maybe try to play an Alekine's gun in the future, where I can play rook a5, rook a to a7, and then like queen b1, and then queen a8, and you see I have the queen and 2 rooks aimed at that pawn. That's called an Alekine's gun. And after the World Championship winner Alexander Alekhine. And but I can't really do that very easily, because if I play rook a5, they can play knight b3 with a tempo on the rook, so that's kind of a bummer. So that being said, the nice thing is that they can never really play f4 at any point trying to break on my structure, because then they're e4 pawn would hang. It's possible I might just play this as a flight square move. I don't think there's any dangerous sacrifices at the moment with bishop takes h6, d takes h6, queen takes h6, because my king is open, but I have like a knight and a bishop around him, and they don't have much coming yet, so I would have time to rally forces to the defense of my king. So they do play knight b6, which is a good move. Now their rooks are connected again. Their knight's pressuring my knight, but I don't want to, and I don't have to take that knight. In fact, I'm going to leave my knight here knowing a sec. Because if they play knight takes, I can play pawn on b6 takes e5. And my position is not too bad. I mean, I'm slightly worse because I'm down on pawn, but I don't think it's that bad. What to do here, though? I might want to play here because my bishop is basically shut out by their pawn structure. It's biting on granite where it can't really attack that pawn in any meaningful way. So I'm going to try to trade this bishop off. I'm not really threatening to take bishop b flat, b5, knight takes b5 because they'd be landing a fork on my queen on c7. And my rook on c7. So I'm not threatening that, but I'm trying to get my bishop off the board in some way. And I think I'm more or less guaranteeing it by putting pressure on their bishop. So I'm going to take this way. Obviously, I'm not going to take with a queen and blunder a queen. And to me, it should make sense to you guys why you don't want to take with the d pawn, because then you're taking away from the center. Typically, you want to have a good reason to do that. If I took away from the center with d6, if I played d takes c5, that would actually give them a connected pass pawn on d6. If you can visualize that, that would have a connected pass pawn, and they'd probably be a lot better. That means their extra pawn would be passed instead of just hanging around in the position. So they go there, taking the open file. Makes sense. Kind of a move I like is knight to d7, planning knight b6, adding some more pressure to a4. Because my knight is not doing much on f6, again, due to their pawn structure. And even if I play knight d7 and they make that bishop sacrifice on h6, my bishop is still there defending my king, and they have no pieces attacking me. So I'm comfortable with playing this, trying to get my knight back into the game. More into the action. Oh, you two are so sweet. Oh my gosh. Little monkeys. I'm gonna show y'all my cats. How do I flip this? I'm such a boomer. Help. Let's see here. Well, now I'm just adding colors and shit. That's funny. In any case, I'm trying to show you guys my cats. So I have this cute little cat bed and my office for the cats to hang out on. So I'll just show you Aurora and her mama cuddling. Look at these two babies. Okay, so that's why I get distracted playing chess sometimes with those freaking nerds. Alright, that's a good move by them. So a function of them playing earlier rook f to b1 was that they got out of any issues with my bishop being able to play bishop takes f1. So that was a nice move by them. And I guess they're I didn't quite see that. So what did I play? I guess I brought my knight over. So maybe I didn't quite see their positional threat here. That's kind of a cool move because now Well, I don't have to play rook b8, because then if they play rook takes b8, queen takes b8, rook b1, queen over, they'd get a tempo and then have the open file. So my inclination is actually to play like rook to c8 and just leave it there, rather than trading it off and letting him get all those tempos and take the file, because he's already got the file. Whoa, I'm not making dots still. Leave me alone. So yeah. And then next I'll probably play knight to b6, intending knight b4, hitting his queen and his bishop. So, okay, so I guess, yeah, they're playing really, really well. I didn't see this move being possible like a few moves ago, and I was happy about that, because then I don't have to give up my bishop. But it's possible because they were able to scoot their bishop out with tempo and then, you know, make way for their knight to come in. So now I actually have to take that knight because my rook and queen are hanging. So I'm going to take that. And I'm really struggling here, folks. I got to stop blundering pawns, man. Jeez. Probably I should have played like a3 at some point and got that pawn out of the way, or protected it some a better way somehow. I'm struggling here. So that's another thing where, like, I was trying to be accurate with my knight move, but there's probably something a little different I could have done. Or maybe not. We'll see. I shouldn't dwell on it because the game is still in process. We'll see what the AI has to say. Alright. A takes b5. And now they got a connected pass pawns. They're killing me. However, I have quite a convenient knight blockading move. Knights love blockading pawns because they get to stop the pawn, but they're still just as effective. Like, you see how that knight is still controlling a ton of squares, and it's blocking the pawn. So knights actually function best either blocking pawns or on an outpost of their own. So they go there, getting out of the fork with knight c4. What to do here? Probably got to do something with my bishop because he's not doing anything right now. Or I might just want to put my rook here so that at least he's doing something. He's kind of somewhat stopping his b5 pawn. And man, with his bishop there, it's going to be really hard for me to maintain control. Ooh, I'm just seeing now that his queen is controlling a1. Yeah, he's playing very well. He got control of this file, and he's up a pawn, so it's going to be tough for me to fight back here. Let's go here. How to fight back. Because I can't move my rook hardly because of his bishop on c6, so my rook can hardly move. So I'm imagining if he, you know, plays like, you know, rook a3, queen a1, rook a7, and starts infiltrating in my position, that's going to get really bad. I wanted some kind of discovered attack to work, but their queen's defending their rook. Yeah, so they're seeing my plan. They're probably intending queen a3 or queen a1 and attacking me on that file. They're taking control of the file. I'm gonna go here, which is a cheeky move, which is threatening knight takes d4, which would unleash a discovered attack on the rook. My queen and bishop on a5. So I'm threatening to win a pawn back. Because if I played knight takes c4, knight takes d4, he would have to move his rook away. Oh no, actually I'd actually be attacking his queen there. Nice. I'd be attacking his queen, so I'm threatening some material. But this might lose some material. No, it doesn't quite lose material because I can play knight c4, hitting his rook. And his bishop. However, then he can play rook to a7. Let's say I play queen b6, and his bishop is still hit, but his rook and pretty much everything is kind of safe. That kind of sucks. So I might actually have to switch gears and like, well, I don't know. It's harder to say what to do here because if I try to go and do my own thing, they have free play to do their thing. So if I go to like queen, e7, all the way to like, queen h4, is that too of a slow of attack on them? Probably, because I don't have any other pieces participating. Yeah, so I'm probably gonna do something else. Alright. Therefore, let me go for this and just see what happens. I think they're going to play rook a7 and attack my queen and get out of the tactic. Yup. And now I'll simply play this. I think that's the right move. I don't think I'm losing my queen. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think I am. Because if they play rook a6, I can just play right back to queen c7. Yeah, I'm putting up a little bit of a fight here, but I gotta stop blundering pawns. I didn't quite see that their bishop was attacking my pawn until it's too late, but sometimes I do that. Like, I love gaining space, and forget that, sometimes those pawns can become vulnerable if you're not well developed enough. That's why typically you actually, you want to make sure you can defend those pawns, that you're well developed enough to defend them. Because consider like you've got this really ambitious foot soldier and he runs into the opponent's camp and he's all happy about it, and then he finds out he's up against a whole army and help is several minutes away and he's probably gonna die. Bring their bishop back. Okay. What to play here? I might play this to try to trade their bishop with bishop to e3, because then they wouldn't have two bishops. It's a little something. I'm just trying to claw my way back here to a draw, basically. So they get out of the way. Okay. My knight's slightly in no man's land. I wonder if I'm like getting my knight trap or something. So let's maybe give my knight some space here. Yeah, it's probably wise to give my knight a small amount of space. With like queen to d8, so my knight can go back to b6. I'm thinking about playing bishop f3, king h1, bishop d4, hitting the queen, c3, and my bishop's attacked. But yeah, my knight might be still doing something square. So let me just go back here just to try to safeguard my knight. But I think they're going to be getting a lot of activity, because like usually if you're playing passive moves, it's probably not good. Like usually unless you're calling the shots, it's probably not good, and there's something that's coming that's bad. So I'm assuming they're gonna play that move, that's interesting, because now we're going into an opposite colored pawn situation, which could be a draw in a lot of cases. So knight takes is obvious, so we get the opposite squared bishops. Okay. But that might be, it could be drawish. Yeah, I think that's like pretty drawish. So this is the draw that I was hoping for. It might not be a draw, but it could be. Yeah, because I mean I can even just play like bishop to d8 here. Well, let's see. Yeah, that might be a good move there. Attacking the rook. They'll probably play rook a7, so they can in the future play rook d7. But my plan with that is to just, you know, park my bishop on like on b6, and then swing my rook over to b8, and the rook would be defended by the bishop, and the rook would be defending the pawn on d6. So I'm trying to consolidate here, because if I can consolidate, I'm not too scared if I can get my king over there to assist in stopping their pawn, because my bishop is stopping the pawn. So, and I think my king is closer than their king, so this is looking drawish, even though they're up a pawn. They play rook a7. The nice thing is bishop a6 comes with tempo on their rook, and then, you know, rook d7. I can play rook a8, and I've solved my problem, because if they play rook takes a8, bishop takes, or excuse me, rook takes d8, bishop takes d8. Not many problems in the position. You see how their passed pawn is stopped by my bishop, and their king is so far away from getting to it. By the time it does, mine will get there. Yeah, so I might play this, blocking their rook, so that when their bishop moves away, my pawn isn't attacked. And my rook is stuck to the defense of my bishop, but in a sense, their rook is kind of stuck there as well, because their rook can't move to a7, because my bishop is protecting that square, and if it moves away, then my rook is free to move. And I'm actually right now not potentially. Actually, I probably would play. Yeah, I might have played e4 potentially to get a discover attack on their king, so they stopped that. But this is looking fairly drawish. Let me just bring my king over. Just don't get low on time. Okay, and they give up a pawn. What? What? I don't understand that move. Just give me a pawn. Wait, no, don't, never pre-move. Never pre-moves. I thought that was a good move, but you want to check. Because I thought this was their idea. It was like, it shouldn't be good that you're giving me all these pawns. But let me check. Okay, let me check. Don't pre-move. So now our material's equal. But they're threatening to play bishop takes, or no, excuse me, they're threatening to take e takes d6, which would be horrific for me. Or they're threatening to play e5, which would be bad for me as well. So I should probably take the pawn. Then I'm actually up a pawn. And yes, they're pushing with d6, but my bishop is protecting that square. My rook is protecting that square. My king is nearby. So I think this is bad for them. I think they got over ambitious and they don't want to draw, so they're trying to win. But now I'm slightly better here because I'm up a pawn instead of them being up a pawn. Yeah, so they go there, getting closer to queening. But like I said, I have like 2 players protecting it. So I'm gonna go here, making a way for my king to come up and protecting my pawn. Like a plan I might have is like king f8, bishop d5, king e5, bishop c3, king, or excuse me, bishop d6, king d8, and I'm stopping their pawn. And their rook, remember, can never really get to my a7 rank, because, or the a7 square, or the 7th rank in general, because of my bishop. So I'm up a pawn, and I don't think my position is. I think my position is good. So I think that was a weird decision by them. So I kind of like that move I said, because I'm just bringing my king up. They're going to bring their king up as well, but now I can attack their pawn. Let's see here. I'm going to gain some space. I got to be careful because I'm getting low on time. But it's nothing crazy yet, especially with increment. Increment's very helpful. So I'm going to go here attacking their pawn, so which gives me a tempo to then push their king away with f5. Boom. How do you like that? That's why tempo moves are so nice. Yeah. You didn't think about that one, did you? Nah, you didn't think about that one. I know where you at. All right. I'm going to go here, guarding any shenanigans from that pawn. And then later I'm going to play... I have possibilities. See, because I'm up a pawn now. I might win. It's probably still a draw because of the opposite color bishops and the whole situation, but I might have some winning aspirations. All right, Jan Ray, what you got? It was a good idea for them. I almost thought it was working, but I just saw, because I saw that they were getting a passed pawn, so it's an interesting idea, and it's a nice tactical idea to keep in mind for the future, that you can sacrifice a pawn to push another through. But in this particular situation, I wasn't worried whatsoever because my bishop and my rook were protecting the queening square. If there's only one piece protecting the queening square, you got to be nervous because they could play like rook takes my bishop and then queen at some point theoretically. But because I have, well, that's just an example. I don't know, but I just wasn't worried at all. So, and in fact, now I think I might. Let's see. I might play. Here to just play g4. I'm in no rush yet to make any like committal moves. They can't move their bishop because then I could play king takes d7. If they move their rook away, the rook isn't doing anything active. Because the rook, at least right now, is doing something active. It's stopping my king from my rook from moving. Sorry guys, I'm misspeaking my words all today because I am completely sleep deprived, but I still love playing chess. And basically anytime I play a game, I just want to record it because I feel like it actually helps me articulate my thought process better and play better. I realized that like when I was playing these games and I went back and looked at them, they're actually higher quality, just a little bit higher quality than normal, because even though I'll occasionally blunder, it's like my thought process in general are more clear because I'm enunciating them. All right, so they go there. That's a good move because now if I play G5 and they take, they're opening up everything, so they're getting potential access to my king. But I think that's still fine for me because I could get a massive cluster of passed pawns over here. H takes, G takes. He goes there, but I have rook, bishop, king protecting, and they only have rook, guarding. So what to play here? So they could be threatening rook to d5. So I actually may bring my king up and stop his rook from attacking my pawn. Although I could do that when he does that. Yeah. But I kind of like that move. Because there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, the d8 square is sufficiently defended by my bishop and my rook. Interesting position. My bishop isn't very good, but at least my bishop is protecting, it's blockading, it's basically stopping like 3 different pawns in concert with my pawn on c5 and my rook, obviously, but they're kind of doing a good job, and I have this very menacing group of pawns on the king side and center that they got to really watch out for. And I'll be probably taken towards the center because you should just typically do that. If I play f3, g takes f3, I'll play g takes f3 rather than h takes f3. Geez, I'm getting my numbers all wrong. E takes f3. This is a little bit more centralized. So they go there as I thought they would, but the rook is still posted up nicely, but it's not doing much. So they are pressuring my pawn, and they're pressuring f5 and c5. But aside from that, they can't do much else. So I'm gonna go here. Now I gotta speed up because I'm below 2 minutes. But I might be winning. Although, yeah, I might be winning. I thought of an idea that they had. They could potentially try to play d8 as a sacrifice, hoping I would play bishop takes d8, and then they could play rook takes e5. But I don't have to play bishop takes d8. I can actually play, rook takes d8, and then. So I'm gonna go here because it's a cheeky move. I'm stopping their pawn, and they can't play rook takes c5 because then I could play bishop to b6, skewering their rook to their king. Yeah, and I'm gonna win a rook and queen a pawn, and then they'll resign. So this is why I always fight back, guys. I mean, my position looked really horrible. I blundered a pawn for no reason, and looked to have a pretty miserable position. But then I kept fighting, got into an opposite colored bishop in game, and then that one I think was probably drawn, and that kind of frustrated them. So they sacrificed a couple pawns, and then it snowballed to this position. Like, you guys ever think I was gonna get a position like this when I was losing earlier? That's why I always fight, never resign. Don't resign unless you can see literally imminent checkmate coming within like 5 moves. Don't resign. And even in that case, if you felt like it, you could play out the moves and allow your opponent to, have the satisfaction of checkmating you after deserving it. So their only move here is king to d4, but then at that point I could actually play like almost anything I wanted because their rook is still pinned to their king. So I could actually play f6 or f2, and their king is overloaded. Their king is protecting that square for my pawn, and they're protecting the rook. So I think they might resign here after they realize that. If they play king d4, I can play bishop takes c. Oh, so oh shit! I'm losing a piece myself. Fuck. What's going on here? I didn't quite notice that tactic. When did this happen? Oh, okay, that's interesting. Oh, okay, so they were setting up. I didn't even see that. When they moved their rook, that was clearing a spot for their bishop to attack me. So that's probably why they played it. They didn't see that I was gonna. I mean, maybe they saw it, or they weren't worried about their rook because they saw that they had a tactic and that if they got it, then they'd be straight up winning a rook. So I didn't see that at all. They go here, but now I get a pawn. Excuse me. I'm going to take this pawn, and now I'm up a huge amount of pawns if he takes my rook. Or no, not huge. I'm not up a huge amount of pawns, but I'm up a huge amount of passed pawns right there. So you see, I'm up 3 pawns. They're protected by my bishop. So I think that would be winning. It's a good move by him, but I think I'm still winning here. Because bishop takes there, I take your rook with check, and I mean, it's got to be close to winning. Like, check. It might not be winning, but it's got to be close. Because his pawns are toothless because my bishop has him under control, and he resigns. It's possibly an early resignation. But they may have wanted to play on for like 5 more moves and seeing if I could win. But good game, Jan Ray. Good game. Whew. That was close. I blundered another pawn. Played pretty horribly in the middle game there, but I lucked out by them overpressing. So crazy game here. Alright, so I played b6. They get a big center. They bring their pieces out. I develop. They go here, which is probably not the greatest, only because like what you saw in the game is how I can challenge them and then challenge them again. Probably here I straight up didn't notice. Like if I play a3, I kind of like my position. I mean, maybe the pawn is overextended in general, because then they may be able to play like knight b1 and just attack that pawn. That's kind of funny. So maybe my pawn is overextended. I should probably, in general, think about my space gaining moves a little bit more. Because sometimes I just kind of assume, like, visually they can be defended, but in this case, because I assumed, like, a3 was like, ooh, I was excited to play a3. But now looking at it, they can play knight b1, which is a funny move because they're undeveloping. But they're attacking my pawn, and it's almost impossible to defend. I think impossible to defend, so that's kind of funny. So I bring my bishop out, they win a pawn. So now from, move 12, 13 on, I'm probably losing, but let's see how I fight back here. Just connect my rooks. Bring my rooks over. Try to trade bishops, they trade knights, bring rooks over. I try to bring my knight over. They attack my rook. Slide over, they bring their knight in. I have to take him. So now they have 2 bishops and an extra pawn. But my knight can come in and block. They go there. I go here, they take. Attack me, and their position is better for sure, but I don't know how much better though. It's probably like +1 or +2, but it's probably not crazy unless I'm just misjudging it. Because now they go here and I can land this fork, but they hit my queen, get out of the way, and then once you back up, now my bishop and knight can kind of start coming after your dark squares a little bit. They go there, I back up. And then they went here, which is, I don't think that great of a move, but maybe they didn't like how strong my knight was or something, but I just don't like that for them because even though they're up a pawn, we get into an opposite colored bishop in game, so it's probably a draw. Because I'm not really seeing how they defend, how they make progress from here, and that's why they sacrificed a couple pawns. Good idea in general, but I don't think it's a good idea in this particular case. Now I'm just better here, especially right here. Watch this. I can move here. Check this out. I'm hitting their pawn, and that gives me an opportunity that once they're like, okay, now they're actually in this position threatening to play rook takes b6, rook takes b6, and d8 queens. They'd be threatening to win. However, I have time to check their king, get a huge, running pawn wall, and then slide my king back. That's how important checks and tempo moves are, especially checks, because checks always have to be respected. Threats and captures don't always have to be respected, but checks always do. So in this position, I'm at least better, but I might be winning. And it's hard to say for what white should do because of how strong my pawns are. Yeah, I don't know what they should do. Because if they played everything out in the game and lost, I mean, maybe in this position it's not quite losing. I'm assuming it is, but it's probably like +2 or more. But sometimes these positions are wild because even if it looks like it's winning, it's not, because I do have double pawns, and I do have a dark squared bishop, and I have a light squared bishop, which makes it hard for me to control squares that basically they're controlling the light squares and I can't get to them. So let's look at the game analysis real quick. Really good game, Jan Ray. You kind of smoked me in the middle game, but then I swindled you a little bit. Alright, so let's look at this game. Yeah, in this position, okay, it's showing checkmate, so not an early resignation at all. They saw the position a little bit better than me. Here's the thing about chess. When you have a great position, it's better to assume that this position is +1, but you try to play all the best moves and you try to play as hard as you can, than it is to assume that it's winning, because I mean, if you know that it's winning, that's great. But if you don't have, like me, and I'm an amateur, so I can't quite 100% see that. Because of my experience, I can see some vague lines where if I move my pawns wrong, their king and their bishop can blockade them, and then I can't move. But the computer's clearly seeing some easy wins here, and I assumed it was winning, but you don't want to assume it's winning, and that's I on principle try to downplay my positions a little bit, even if I'm confident. You don't want to downplay them too much, but it's one of those things where, like, just try to be realistic. So I assumed it was winning, but all right, let's look at the computer analysis. So white was winning most of the game, and then they kind of lost there at the end when they sacrificed the pawns. So that's pretty much how it went. They were slightly better, like I said in the opening here. See, they were slightly better because of b3. They're half a pawn better, but that's okay. It's cool to be a half a pawn better for white, and then black can be a half a pawn worse, but we're just playing chess, and as opposed to playing a ton of theory. Like, I'm not a huge fan of theory unless it's moves that I've discovered myself, and then it turns out to be theory, or it's moves that I specifically search out for, because I don't sit there and try to memorize all of the theory. It's too much. I just like my own openings. So they're pretty much winning. Yeah, +2 after that, and I knew they probably would be, because my position not only sucks, but they're down a pawn. So yeah, they're just kind of winning here. Winning pretty bad, +3, and that's even apparently a mistake. It's kind of funny. But everything's losing here. I thought about that move, of course, to try to get the bishops off, but I was trying to play a little bit more dynamically, trying to mix it up, try to psych them out. But everything's losing. It's like the computer calls it a mistake, but don't worry about that, guys. Like, basically, if you're already losing, nothing is a mistake unless, like, you hang a queen, or you play just, like, if you're just given material for free. If your move is complicated and interesting, it's not really a mistake, in my opinion. And that's what most masters will say. Because you have to mix it up. Because I'm losing, right? I'm -4 here, so I have to mix it up. So my queen backs up, their bishop goes up. But it's pretty much winning for them until this here. Now they're just better. They're not like dead winning. Because if the position says it's +1 or +2 and an opposite colored bishop endgame or something, it's probably not that. It's probably not that big. Because it's hard to grow that advantage. Like, yes, you're better, but it's hard to grow it. And then if you can't grow it, you can't really win. And then they go here. Now I'm winning or better myself. Not winning, but I'm better. Ooh, it likes that. No, it doesn't like that move. It thinks it's okay. But now I'm winning here. Yeah, I can just my rook can swing over because my rook can get active while also still protecting queening squares. And if my rook ever goes away, my bishop is still protecting that square. So it's not too. I'd rather sacrifice the bishop than them queen. And now I kind of like this move, bringing my bishop back. Yeah, the computer says it likes that. So okay, I just got a good old-fashioned swindle in. That is totally fine. Most chess games are not won by the player who's first better. I'd say that's like what happens like half the time. Usually it's like, a roller coaster. And that's the fun of chess. So, whew, crazy game. Cool. If you had any questions about this game, guys, or about chess psychology or anything like that, just drop some comments in the comment section. And I'll see you next time real soon for another video. All right, peace.